The forest road was quiet that morning, the kind of silence that feels alive, filled with whispers of trees, soft songs of unseen birds, and the distant echo of nature breathing in peace. A thin mist hugged the ground as the sun tried to push through the canopy, painting streaks of gold across the leaves. A man drove slowly, his old jeep crunching over the dry leaves scattered across the narrow path. He wasn't in a hurry. This road always brought him peace. It cut through the heart of the forest, where animals often crossed and every turn hid a new story. He had been driving for about an hour when something strange caught his eye up ahead. The air felt different and heavier. The birds that usually sang around this area were quiet. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. He slowed the jeep down and squinted through the thin veil of mist. At first it looked like a fallen tree trunk blocking the road. But as he got closer, the shape began to move ever so slightly. His heart skipped a beat. That wasn't a tree. He turned off the engine and listened. There was a deep sound of a groan low and full of pain. It sent chills down his spine. Slowly, he stepped out of the jeep, his boots pressing softly into the wet earth. He took a few cautious steps forward, keeping his eyes fixed on the shape lying near the roadside. And then, through the thinning fog, he saw it clearly, a massive elephant lying on its side. For a moment, he just stood there in disbelief. The animal's size was overwhelming, its body covered in a thick layer of dust and dried mud. Its huge ear twitched weakly. The elephant's eyes were half open, glassy and tired, as if it had been fighting pain for days. The man's heart began to pound. He had seen injured animals before, snakes tangled in nets, birds with broken wings, even a wounded leopard once, but never an elephant. He took another careful step forward. The elephant raised its head slightly, startled, and let out a deep rumbling sound, not loud but full of fear and exhaustion. The man immediately stopped. He didn't want to scare it. He slowly lifted his hands, showing he meant no harm, and spoke softly, "It's okay. Calm down, big one. I'm not here to hurt you." The elephant lowered its head again as if too tired to resist. Its breathing was uneven. Every inhale a heavy effort, every exhale a deep sigh. The man could see its chest rising and falling slowly, the ribs faintly visible beneath the skin. Something was terribly wrong. He circled around it carefully, keeping a safe distance. That's when he noticed something odd under its left ear, a large swollen lump. The skin around it was stretched and glossy, yellowish in color, and a thin trickle of fluid had dried along the folds of the neck. The sight made his stomach twist. It wasn't just a wound, but it was an abscess, big and infected, the kind that comes from a deep injury or an insect bite left untreated. The swelling was enormous, like a large fruit pressed under the elephant's skin, throbbing with every beat of its heart. The man could almost feel the pain radiating from it. He stepped a little closer, just enough to see better, and the smell hit him and a sour, rotten scent of infection. The elephant flinched slightly, as if even the movement of air near the wound hurt. He whispered under his breath, "Oh no, you poor soul." The forest around them stayed silent, as if watching this moment unfold. Sunlight filtered through the trees, landing softly on the elephant's face. Its eyes glistened, not just from pain, but from something deeper, exhaustion, fear, and maybe even a faint hope that someone had finally found it. The man crouched down a few meters away, trying to think. He had a first aid box in his jeep, but that was for small wounds, not something this serious. He knew wild elephants were strong, unpredictable, and easily scared when injured. One wrong move could get him hurt or even killed, yet leaving it there wasn't an option. He studied the animal's movements carefully. The elephant's trunk moved weakly, sweeping the dirt as if searching for water. Its eyes closed for a moment, then opened again, looking straight at him. That gaze froze him in place. There was something so human in it, a silent plea, a quiet question. "Can you help me?" He swallowed hard. "I'll try," he whispered. He went back to his jeep quickly, searching through his supplies. A bottle of clean water, a few pieces of cloth, antiseptic, and a small knife he sometimes used for cutting ropes or clearing brush. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He also kept a few fruits in a box, bananas, apples, and papayas. Maybe the elephant would trust him more if he offered food. When he returned, he stayed low and slow, keeping his voice calm. "Easy, big one. Look, I've got something for you." He placed a banana gently on the ground near its trunk and stepped back. The elephant hesitated, its trunk twitching. Then slowly it reached forward and picked up the banana. It ate it quietly, without much strength, but it didn't look away from him. The man smiled faintly. That was a start, a fragile thread of trust. He moved a little closer again, now within a few feet of the elephant's head. The abscess under its ear had started to ooze again, a thick yellow discharge slipping down its cheek. Flies buzzed around it, and the elephant twitched its ear in irritation, but was too weak to drive them away. The man waved them off gently and soaked a piece of cloth in clean water. "Let's clean that, okay?" "Just a little," he said softly. As he slowly reached out with the wet cloth, the elephant flinched but didn't pull away. He touched the swollen area lightly, wiping away the dirt and pus. The skin was hot, burning hot, and tender to the touch. The man could feel how inflamed it was. He took his time, wiping gently, whispering softly as he worked. "You're doing so well." "Brave giant, I know it hurts." Each movement was careful, every sound soft. The elephant breathed heavily, eyes half closed, trusting him more with each passing minute. As he cleaned, he realized just how large the abscess was. It extended deep below the ear, swollen with infection. He knew that if it wasn't drained soon, it could spread and become deadly. But he also knew he couldn't just cut it open without preparation or help. The elephant could panic, and even a small movement could crush him. He took a step back, thinking fast. Maybe he could call the forest department or local wildlife rescue team, but signal was weak here, and the nearest outpost was miles away. Still, he had to try. He walked back to his jeep and picked up his phone. As expected, no signal. He sighed, looking back at the elephant. It hadn't moved much, but its breathing seemed to slow down a bit, as if it was relaxing slightly in his presence. He knew he couldn't waste time. Infection spreads fast, and every minute mattered. He decided to stay with it, to keep it calm until help arrived. He found a small patch of grass and started collecting leaves, making a soft pile near its mouth. Then he poured some water into a shallow bowl and placed it nearby. "Drink," he said quietly. The elephant's trunk reached out weakly, touched the water, and then slowly drank. Drops of water spilled down its trunk, falling onto the ground like little beads of hope. For a few moments there was peace again. The man sat on a rock nearby, watching the gentle giant. The forest began to come alive once more. Birds chirped softly, the wind whispered through the trees, and sunlight danced across the clearing. Then it felt like the forest itself was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. But deep inside, the man knew this calm wouldn't last. The infection was bad. The abscess had started to pulse again, fluid pushing out slowly from the swollen lump. The elephant groaned in pain, a deep sound that echoed through the forest. The man's heart tightened. He couldn't just sit and watch it suffer. He had to do something, anything, even if it meant risking himself. He walked closer again, his mind racing for a plan. He remembered watching a vet once drain a similar abscess in a buffalo. Maybe, just maybe, he could do something to relieve the pressure. He looked at the small knife in his hand, clean, sharp, but tiny compared to the massive wound. His hands trembled slightly. Could he really do this? The elephant watched him, breathing slow and heavy. Its trunk reached out again, touching the ground near his feet. A small, almost human gesture. He knelt beside it, eyes filled with determination and worry. "I'll help you," he whispered again. "I promise." The forest went quiet once more, as if holding its breath. The man took a deep one of his own, staring at the swollen abscess. He knew this was the moment that would decide everything, life or death. He gently cleaned the area one last time, his hands steady now, his heart loud in his chest. The elephant's eye followed his every move, trusting him completely. The bond between man and beast, fragile yet powerful, had formed in that moment. And as he raised his knife slightly, preparing to make the first careful step to save the suffering giant, the air changed again. The wind stilled. The forest waited. What happened next would shock him beyond anything he had imagined. The man's hands trembled slightly as he held the small knife, its silver edge catching the sunlight that filtered through the tall forest trees. His heart pounded so loudly it echoed in his ears. Every part of him screamed that what he was about to do was dangerous, that even one wrong move could make the massive elephant panic. But he also knew that if he didn't act soon, the infection could spread, poisoning the creature's body from the inside. The elephant's eye was open, watching him. There was no anger, only pain, a deep, silent kind of suffering that seemed to ask for help. The man took a deep breath and spoke softly, his voice trembling but steady enough to calm the giant. "You're going to be okay. Just trust me, please." He dipped the knife in antiseptic from his first aid kit, making sure it was as clean as possible. Then he gently pressed his palm against the swollen skin under the elephant's ear. The heat radiating from the abscess was intense, almost burning. The elephant let out a low groan, the sound heavy with exhaustion. I know it hurts," the man whispered. "But I'll make it better." He glanced around once more, scanning the forest for signs of movement. If another elephant was nearby, maybe the herd, things could turn dangerous fast. But there was only the quiet hum of insects and the distant call of birds. It was just him and the wounded giant. He leaned closer and carefully positioned the blade. For a long second he hesitated. His breath came out shaky. The elephant's massive body shifted slightly, and its trunk brushed the dirt gently beside his leg, as if to reassure him. That single moment of connection gave him the courage he needed. He pressed the knife gently into the swollen skin. The elephant tensed instantly. Its muscles shivered, and a low guttural sound escaped its throat, a mix of pain and relief. The man froze, terrified it might stand up suddenly. But it didn't. Instead, the sound turned into a deep exhale, almost like a sigh. Then it happened. A sudden burst of thick, yellow fluid gushed out of the abscess, with a force he hadn't expected. The smell hit him immediately, rotten, foul, and suffocating. He turned his face away for a moment, coughing, but kept his hands steady. He wiped the pus away with clean cloths as quickly as he could, making sure the wound stayed open to drain. The elephant groaned again, this time louder, and its trunk thrashed weakly before falling still. It's okay," he said over and over like a prayer. "It's all coming out. You'll feel better soon." The abscess kept draining. Thick yellow pus mixed with blood flowed continuously for what felt like forever. Each second stretched into minutes. The man worked tirelessly, wiping, cleaning, talking softly to keep the elephant calm. He could see how much pain it had been carrying. Every drop that came out was like releasing a part of its suffering. After a while, the swelling began to reduce slightly. The skin that had been stretched tight was now softer, less red. The elephant's breathing grew more even, though its eyes were still half closed in exhaustion. The man gently poured clean water over the wound, washing away the last traces of infection. He didn't stop there. From his kit, he took out antiseptic liquid and poured a small amount into the cavity. The elephant flinched, a deep rumble escaping its chest. The man paused and waited for it to calm down before continuing. Slowly, carefully, he dressed the wound with a clean cloth soaked in antiseptic. He stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. His shirt was soaked, and his hands were shaking from both fear and relief. The forest air was heavy with the smell of blood and medicine, but also something else: hope. He looked at the elephant again. It was still lying down, but its breathing was calmer now. Its eyes blinked slowly, and for the first time he thought he saw peace in them. The man smiled faintly. "You did it," he whispered. "You're strong. You're going to make it." He sat beside it for a moment, feeling his own heart begin to slow down. The tension that had held him since the moment he saw the animal finally began to ease. He poured water on his hands and face, trying to wash away the smell. The elephant watched him quietly, its trunk moving slightly in the dirt as if it understood. For a few minutes there was only peace, the kind of stillness that follows after a storm. The man looked around the forest again, breathing in the scent of earth and trees, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. Helping this creature, feeling its trust, it was something beyond words. He turned to the elephant and said softly, "Rest now. I'll stay close. You're safe." He moved to the jeep to grab some fruits again, bananas and papayas. He placed them near the elephant's trunk. The giant sniffed weakly and took one, chewing slowly. That small act of eating, surviving, felt like victory. The man smiled. "That's it, my friend. You'll be walking soon." But just as he said that, something changed. The elephant suddenly went still. The man's smile faded. Its eyes blinked rapidly, and a deep rumble rolled through its chest. Not the sound of pain, but something else. The man frowned, stepping closer. "Hey, what's wrong?" The elephant shifted suddenly, its huge body trying to roll over. The man stumbled back, startled. The ground shook beneath him. The elephant raised its trunk and let out a loud, deep trumpet, a sound so powerful it echoed through the trees, sending birds flying in all directions. He froze. "Easy, easy," he shouted, his voice trembling. But the elephant wasn't angry. Its eyes didn't show rage. It was something else. Fear. The man turned his head instinctively to look around, and that's when he saw movement in the shadows. Something large was approaching from between the trees. At first it was just a blur. The sound of snapping branches. Heavy footsteps and low growls. His heart stopped. From the trees emerged another elephant, a bigger one. Towering tusks gleaming under the sunlight. Its ears flared, its eyes wide and alert. It moved fast, protective, charging slightly before stopping a few feet away from the wounded one. The man stumbled backward, raising his hands. No, it's okay. I helped. Look." But the massive elephant trumpeted loudly, its trunk raised high in the air. The sound was deafening, full of power and warning. The man could feel the vibration in his chest. He knew exactly what it meant. It was protecting its companion. Maybe the injured elephant was part of its herd. Maybe even its mate. The wounded elephant groaned softly, turning its head toward the newcomer. The large one responded with a low rumble, stepping closer. Their trunks touched briefly, a gentle, heartbreaking moment of recognition. The man's fear began to ease, though he still didn't move. He watched as the larger elephant examined the wound under the smaller one's ear, sniffing gently. It made a low sound, almost mournful, then looked back at the man. For a brief second, their eyes met. There was anger, confusion, but also something else, understanding. The man spoke softly again. "I didn't hurt it, I helped. It was dying." The large elephant stayed still, watching him. Its breathing was deep and heavy, and then, to his surprise, it stepped slightly back, lowering its head near the injured one. The tension in the air began to fade. The man exhaled slowly, his body trembling from the adrenaline. He looked at the two elephants, the way the larger one gently touched the other's trunk, the way the wounded one leaned into that touch as if drawing strength from it. The forest seemed to hum quietly around them, as if nature itself was breathing again. He stepped back quietly, giving them space. He didn't want to interfere anymore. The large elephant stayed close to the wounded one, standing guard. It was clear now. They weren't just random animals. They were family. For a few minutes, the man simply watched in awe. The scene before him was something few people would ever witness. Raw, powerful emotion between two giants of the wild. The bond they shared was stronger than any fear. The man whispered to himself, "You came for your friend. You felt its pain." He backed away slowly, keeping his movements calm. The larger elephant's gaze followed him but didn't charge. It seemed to understand now that he meant no harm. The man reached his jeep but didn't start it yet. He didn't want the noise to disturb them. He just sat there watching. The injured elephant had begun to relax again, its head resting gently on the ground, while the other stood close, using its trunk to brush away flies and dust from the wound. The man smiled faintly. The moment was both heartbreaking and beautiful. But then, something completely unexpected happened. As the man leaned on the jeep door, catching his breath, a loud cracking sound echoed through the forest. It came from somewhere deeper within, sharp, sudden, like a tree snapping in half. Both elephants froze, their ears flared, eyes alert. The man turned toward the sound, his pulse racing. He couldn't see much, just the thick shadows of the forest. But then he heard it again, heavy footsteps. Not just one, several. The air grew tense once more. The larger elephant moved protectively in front of the injured one, trumpeting again, louder this time. The man gripped the edge of the jeep, unsure of what was coming. And then, from the far side of the forest road, something massive began to move, another presence, bigger than both of them. The man's heart pounded so hard he could barely breathe. Whatever it was coming fast. The peace he had fought for only moments ago was about to shatter again, and what happened next would leave him shocked beyond words. The air grew heavy, so heavy that even breathing felt difficult. Every sound in the forest had stopped. The birds had gone silent. The wind had vanished. Even the leaves seemed to have frozen in place. The man stood motionless beside his jeep, staring into the thick shadows of the trees. His heartbeat thudded against his ribs. The two elephants stood still too, one standing guard, tusks gleaming and the other lying weakly on the ground, recovering from its long agony. Then came the sound again, heavy, thunderous. Footsteps. Something enormous was coming. Branches cracked, dust rose, and through the thick fog of the forest, another elephant emerged, even larger than the last two. Its tusks were massive, curved like ancient ivory blades, its body covered in scars and mud. It was a bull elephant, strong, dominant, and clearly the leader. The man's breath caught in his throat. This was bad. A bull elephant protecting its herd was one of the most dangerous animals in the world. One wrong move and it would charge. The bull stopped a few meters away, its deep eyes scanning the scene, the wounded elephant, the smaller male standing protectively beside it, and then the human standing a short distance away. It lifted its trunk and let out a sound that shook the forest, a long, deep trumpet that echoed through the trees like thunder. The man flinched, instinctively taking a step back. His hands were trembling. "Easy," he whispered, though his voice barely reached his own ears. The larger protective elephant, the one that had arrived earlier, responded to the bull with a series of soft rumbles, almost like words exchanged in their ancient language. The bull trumpeted again, this time shorter, deeper, questioning. The man could feel the weight of its gaze on him. The bull's eyes were sharp and alert, full of warning. It took one step forward, and the ground vibrated under its weight. The man's instincts screamed at him to run, but he didn't. Running would trigger it. He knew enough about elephants to understand that any sudden movement could make things worse. He stayed still, breathing slowly, forcing calm into his shaking body. "I helped," he whispered. "I swear I helped." The wounded elephant lifted its head weakly and made a soft, broken sound, low but distinct. The bull turned sharply toward it. For a moment the forest was silent again. Then something shifted in the air. The bull's ears lowered, its posture changed. It seemed to understand. The man stood frozen, afraid to believe it. The bull slowly approached the injured elephant and used its trunk to touch the wound under its ear, sniffing it carefully. Then it made a deep, resonant rumble, the kind that vibrated through the ground. It wasn't anger. It was sorrow, concern. The man exhaled shakily, his eyes wide. The massive creature wasn't attacking. It was checking on its family. The three elephants stood together now, the bull in front, the guardian beside, and the injured one lying between them. The man could only watch, his heart filled with awe and fear. He took a slow step backward toward his jeep, trying not to draw attention. But before he could take another, the bull suddenly lifted its head and turned toward him again. Its eyes met his. And then, to his utter disbelief, the bull moved forward, not charging but walking slowly, deliberately. Its huge form loomed over him like a mountain. The man froze completely, unable to even breathe. When it was just a few feet away, the bull stopped, its trunk lowered, reaching toward him. The man swallowed hard, too stunned to move. The trunk hovered for a moment, then gently brushed against his shoulder. Light, careful, almost like a touch of acknowledgement. He felt tears sting his eyes. That moment, it was something beyond understanding. The bull elephant wasn't angry anymore. It knew, somehow it knew he had helped. The bull exhaled deeply, a long breath that blew warm air across his face, and then turned back toward the injured elephant. It rumbled softly, a sound that made the other two elephants respond quietly. The man watched as the bull carefully placed its trunk under the injured elephant's head, lifting slightly to help it stand. The smaller one moved to the other side, lending support. Slowly, shakily, the injured elephant began to rise. The man's heart raced. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Bit by bit, the great creature stood up, trembling on its legs at first, but finally steadying itself. The wound under its ear still oozed a little, but it looked cleaner now, less swollen. The elephant took a deep breath, its first strong one in what must have been days. The man felt his chest tighten with emotion. He had done it. He had saved it. But before he could even process that thought, something unexpected happened again, a sharp movement from behind. A sudden growl, and deep, guttural and close. The man turned fast, his blood running cold. Out from the bushes emerged two large hyenas, their eyes gleaming with hunger, their bodies thin and twitching with anticipation. They had likely been watching from the shadows, waiting for the elephant to die so they could feed. Now, seeing the scent of blood and the wounded giant, they thought it was their chance. The man stepped instinctively between them and the elephants, raising his arms. "No, get away!" he shouted, grabbing a stick from the ground. He waved it, shouting louder. But the hyenas didn't flinch. They snarled, circling closer, their eyes flicking between him and the elephants. The bull elephant let out a warning trumpet that shook the trees. The sound was so loud it made the hyenas pause. But hunger made them bold. One of them crept forward again, teeth bared. The man picked up a stone and threw it. It struck the ground near the hyena, making it leap back. He shouted again, louder this time. "Go, leave!" But before he could throw another, the bull elephant charged forward. The ground thundered beneath its feet. The forest exploded with sound as it roared its anger, trunk raised, tusks gleaming. The hyenas yelped in terror and turned, sprinting back into the trees, vanishing into the mist. The elephant stopped just short of the bushes, trumpeting one last time, a victorious sound full of power and warning. The forest echoed with it. Then it turned back, calm once more. The man stood there, breathing hard, adrenaline still rushing through his veins. He looked at the bull, then at the recovering elephant. "You protected them," he whispered. "Just like I tried to." The bull looked at him for a long moment. There was a strange silence between them, not threatening but profound. Then the massive animal slowly lifted its trunk again, touching the injured elephant's side as if to reassure it. The man backed up slightly, knowing his work here was done. The elephants didn't need him anymore. They had each other. He walked to his jeep, hands still shaking, and leaned against the door. His eyes burned with tears he didn't bother to hide. He had never felt anything like this. The raw, pure emotion of life, pain, and survival woven together. The elephants began to move slowly now, the injured one supported by the others. Step by step, they made their way off the forest road, disappearing into the trees. The sunlight broke through the canopy above, casting golden light across their backs. The man watched silently, not daring to move or speak. As the last one, the bullocky, turned to leave, it stopped and looked back one final time. The man met its gaze. The bull's eyes were calm now, wise and deep, carrying a message that didn't need words. It lifted its trunk once more, a gentle gesture almost like a farewell, and then turned to follow its family. The forest slowly returned to life. Birds began to sing again. The wind stirred the leaves. The air smelled of rain and earth and healing. The man stood there for a long time after they were gone, staring into the green depths of the forest where they had disappeared. He felt small, but in a good way. Small before the greatness of life, the strength of nature, and the compassion hidden within even the wildest hearts. He finally started his jeep, the engine rumbling softly in the quiet forest. As he drove away down the winding dirt road, he glanced once more in the rearview mirror. The path behind him was empty, but he could almost still hear their sounds, the low rumbles, the breaths, the heartbeat of the jungle. He smiled through his tears and whispered, "Take care, my friend. You're free now." The road stretched ahead, bathed in golden sunlight. The mist began to lift. For the first time in days, it felt like the forest was smiling, and somewhere deep inside the wilderness, 3 elephants walked side by side, one healed, one protective, and one wise, carrying with them the memory of the man who had dared to help. What had begun as a simple journey had turned into something unforgettable, a story of pain, courage, and an unspoken bond between man and beast. The man didn't know if he'd ever see them again, but he didn't need to. The look in their eyes, the trust they gave him was enough. Somewhere in the heart of that forest, life had been given a second chance. And that, he thought, was all that really mattered.